Okay, hello. Welcome back to Socially Unapologetic. Today we have Brittany Gray, founder and CEO of Fancy Face Inc., TV beauty expert, entrepreneur, and educator here with us today. So I'm so excited, Brittany, that you are here. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, Brooke, thank you for having me.
I'm excited for this one. As you guys know, we start all of our shows with the two truths and one lie. So, Brittany, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll ask you two truths and one lie. And then at the end, we will go over it again when people have got to know you. And then they'll have a chance to kind of guess, and I will guess myself.
Okay. All right. Two truths and one lie. Okay. I lived in Australia for 6 months. I was Megan Fox's dance double in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Okay.
And I also toured South Africa for 2 months when I was in grade 9.
Okay, perfect. So we'll remember those and then we'll come back and recap on them at the end once we get to know a bit about you.
I have to remember them now.
Let's start from the top. What is Fancy Face? A bit about you and your background, and kind of give us a bit of insight of how you started from the beginning to where you are now.
All right, what is Fancy Face? Well, Fancy Face has been a passion project of mine for the past 20 years. I founded the company when I was 20 and I'm turning 40 this December. It really, stemmed out of a deep passion and love for beauty, for cosmetics, for making women feel their best. And it was just a deep rooted passion of mine ever since I was little. I grew up dancing. I was a competitive dancer growing up. I was getting ready for performances, shows. My mom was doing my makeup when I was little. I was doing my makeup when I was a performer as I was getting older. And I just loved the process of transformation. I loved just turning into a version of myself that felt performance ready. And as I got older, I started working in television and film as a performer, both in, movies and TV shows and in theater. And that transformation process was, again, like makeup was so much a part of my performing arts experience. And I remember this pivotal day of me working on the movie Chicago. I was a dancer in the movie when I was 15. And I was in the sort of dressing room area where Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger were getting ready for their performance in the movie. And I saw Catherine Zeta in the chair getting transformed into Velma Kelly. And I just remember looking at her and thinking to myself, how cool would it be to give the everyday woman that, transformation process in her home and to give them that celeb experience. And at the time, 20 years ago, it was not popular to open your door and have an artist or two artists or 4 artists for a wedding show up to you and get you ready for a special event. It was more you went to the salon, you got your hair done, and maybe the salon had a makeup artist that you could hire to get you ready there. And so that's where the idea started for me. And then, I was only 15 at the time. So a few more years went by and I was asked to do makeup for different events for people. And then I thought to myself, I really need to build a team and give women this experience. And before I knew it, word of mouth really spread. It's interesting now we live in such a social media era, but I think then it just taught me the power of doing a great job and then letting women just talk about it. It's and Fancy Face really grew because of women sharing their experience. And now Fancy Face is so much more than when it started, but that is sort of like the history of how it began.
I love that. And so did you first start like solo, and how did that kind of how did you now become like a 7-figure luxury brand with like a team and a storefront? Like, I want to kind of dive into that of how it all kind of came to fruition.
Yeah. Well, it did just start with me initially. But at the time I was, as I mentioned, I was 20 and I was performing in a Mervis show, and I was doing 8 shows a week. And if anyone's, a theater actor performer, they're going to know how grueling that is. It takes up all of your time. You get Mondays off, you're performing until I was walking back to my car after performances at midnight. but I would be asked before a 2-show day on Saturdays and Sundays to do weddings. And so I would go to a bridal party at like the crack of dawn and get women ready for their special day. And then I would head to the theater, get ready for my 2-show day and do it, and then repeat the same thing the next day. So it was like, it was off the charts in terms of energy that you put out. But that's why I think your 20s are so pivotal, because like you should be putting out that much energy to just explore and try and, you know, and so, but I also realized that like you can't build a company on your own back. Like you have to also enlist in help. You have to train people in a way that really, you know, for me, I'm 100% when it comes to work, a perfectionist. I like things done the right way. I think makeup is one of those things that you need to have that heavily discerning eye. And so I started to search for people that I could train and also trust professionally to go to women's houses and give them that fancy face experience. And, you know, was it always easy finding the right fit for the brand? Absolutely not. I've learned so much around, like along the way. But there were those key artists in the beginning that, you know, believed in something that was really nothing, and gave me their time and their energy and their focus and their artistic ability. And we grew something together that, you know, was really exciting. And I'm super grateful to anyone really that's ever been a part of this brand.
I think that's so important what you said, like having people believe in your brand. I think as entrepreneurs, it's like we have this passion and this idea of what we want our brand to be, but obviously, like you said, you can't grow it by yourself. So like finding people that can feel that passion that you have and that can like connect with you. I think that's the biggest thing is like we have a million things in our head as entrepreneurs and we just like store them, and it's like finding somebody that can almost like read what's in your head and bring it out, because we can't do that ourselves.
1000%. And it's interesting as an entrepreneur because, you know, you always want to surround yourself with people that don't have the same strengths as you. Like you want to find your weaknesses and fill in the gaps. But in the beginning, it takes a lot of confidence to hire someone that, you know, has all the strengths that you don't have. Like typically you want to hire people that are similar to you because it's your comfort zone. But I found some real magic in hiring people that I look at them and I'm like, you're everything I'm not. I need you on this team. And like getting to that place, you know, sometimes requires some confidence.
Mm-hmm. And
Mm-hmm.
what were some of the challenges that you faced while you were scaling Fancy Face? I know there's probably like a million you can think of, but what are some key ones
Yeah.
that kind of stand out?
I mean, I'm there's so many. I've always, I mean, it's a self-funded business, so I think it's really important to share that like every single dollar that I made from performing arts, I put back into the business. And so learning how to grow and scale a company when you're self-funded is a challenge. And it's interesting because now I coach and mentor fellow entrepreneurs, and that's something that they always struggle with, especially if that's something that if they want to maintain ownership or, you know, wherever they're at in their journey. But it takes a clever mindset to figure out how to do it, that it is possible. That was one challenge that, you know, continues to this day. It's something that I'm always navigating. Um, I would say finding the right people is a huge one. You know, I've enlisted in some great people. I've also enlisted in some people that maybe had the wrong intentions. I have, you know, sometimes you hire someone and you think that they're going to be, you know, everything that you're looking for, and 6 months down the road, it's a completely different story, and you see a whole different side of that person and what their intent is. So that's also been a challenge for me, is to figure out how to hire properly. I heard recently someone say that you'll get it right 50% of the time, and it's so
Yeah.
true.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get it right, like for example, one of my first hires, when it came to working on the back end of the business, like we call her name's Tiffany, and she's our booking concierge. I hired her right out of Ryerson, and she's been with me for probably about 14 years. It's been a really long time. It's been a great journey. She's a hard worker, and she's someone that I'm so grateful to have built this business with. And then of course, you know, my core team that I have here at Fancy Face today that work in the store with me on a daily basis. They're the backbone of the company. Like I can't do what I do without them. But then the flip side of that is that it hasn't always been that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to be more of a person that when it didn't work out, I felt it to my core. Like it hurt almost like a friendship ending. Whereas as you grow as an entrepreneur, you realize that this is just, it truly is business, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes less personal as time goes on. But I have to say, it took me probably 15 years to get to that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
Hmm.
really important to note because I think like when entrepreneurs are first starting a business, like we're not always taken seriously, right? Like you deal with that doubt and that self-doubt, and especially I think women in general, and then let alone women in a beauty industry. I kind of want to turn it to like how have you dealt with that feeling of like self-doubt and like not being good enough or that like pressure to always be on, especially in the beauty world.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've certainly felt the pressure to be on. However, what's nice about the way the world is moving right now, I think people are really interested in brands that are authentic and that are founder led and that have a strong purpose behind them. So when I feel that pressure, I also remind myself that like people are the right people will gravitate to you when you show up authentically. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna see that in you, and you don't need to ever pretend that you're something that you're not. And like motherhood has also helped me on that front. Like I can't be anything that I'm not, and life, can look messy and it can look a whole bunch of different ways. But yeah, no, I think navigating the beauty space as an entrepreneur has been challenging at times, especially in the beginning, because you have the naysayers, you have people that think like, "What are you going to make?" I started as a makeup artist, like there was always that feedback that I would get from people like, "Good luck making a career out of being a makeup artist," or um, I not too long ago had someone say to me that their mother told them that women this is very triggering. So that women that wear makeup aren't smart. And I found that comment so fascinating that there's people out there that actually believe that. And I really make it my mission to prove that you can love feeling great and you can love showing up as your best self and you can also be incredibly intelligent at the same time.
Yeah.
Both can go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads into like your tagline of Fancy Face is like fancy is a feeling, right? So like what does
Yeah.
that mean to you and like how do you bring that to life with your services and your products? Because I want to talk a bit about the products as well.
Yeah, for me, it's all a feeling. Like, fancy as a feeling can feel very vague when people first see it. Like, what does that mean? But, as having worked with thousands of women, and seeing the needs of women, in many different stages of life, we go through ebbs and flows. There's times in everyone's life, whether you're 19 years old or 65. There's times where you feel amazing about yourself, and then there's times where something can happen and everything can shift and you can lose yourself along the way. And so my goal for Fancy Face is for it to be your almost like your home in beauty, where you find yourself again. If you've lost yourself, if you feel like you've misstepped, if things have spun out of control and you're like, who am I anymore? You come to us and we help you find that girl again. And when I say that girl, I mean, when you think back to like your childhood and like the happiest moments of your life, or like when even in your teenage years when you were most vibrant, there's always like a feeling behind that. And we can find that again in our adulthood. Like we can search for that. And it's interesting as I build this brand, like when I know we're often asked, like, will you ever go into a Sephora, or is that your goal? And for me, it's really not my goal, because, Sephora to me is how women over, a certain age when they have children, how their lives can feel. Like we don't want to walk into a space that feels overwhelming with options and sometimes messy and
Hmm.
sometimes chaotic and with people that we don't connect with because we've never met them before or seen them before. I want Fancy Face to be this place where, you feel serene and calm and like you can take a deep breath and like you can find yourself again. So it's mindfulness and beauty combined.
I love that you said that because I think like Sephora is convenience for people, right? Like it's that just like
Mm-hmm.
it's a brand. You walk in, you know what you're getting. If you don't, you ask somebody and then you walk out. There is no like customer like you there is no customer interaction. So I love that you say that and like you're building that because especially in the beauty world, women are so insecure or they could be
Mm-hmm.
insecure. So like
Yeah.
having that connection is so important because that brings back that loyalty and authenticity and kind of wraps it all back together.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I've had women that are over 60 come into the store and they'll walk like really kind of close to me and they'll be like, "So I'm really considering like going under the knife. What do you think?" And I'll look at them and I'll be like, "Well, have you taken care of your skin? Have you used gua sha? Like, have you tried a BB cream? Have you done these things that can help you feel great and you don't need to go to those extensive measures." But like there's just this bridge that people don't know how to get over, and that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
here for. We really want to bridge the gap so that you know I mean it's all techniques and products and tools, and it does not matter what age you are. It doesn't matter how you think your skin looks right now. It doesn't matter how little sleep you've gotten. There's great product out there, and I think obviously I'm biased. I think Fancy Base has amazing product, and there's techniques and teachers that can really help you get to feeling great again.
Yeah. So as a mom, a founder, and like a public facing brand, I want to talk about like how you juggle all the roles of and
Hmm.
like without losing yourself in that mix. I think it's so important to talk about that with female entrepreneurs, especially either whether you're starting, you're wanting to start, you're currently in business. I think it's so important to like hear people's different opinions of how they juggle all of those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating. Like I mentioned, I'm turning 40, and if I've noticed anything, I've noticed this trend of women getting to this age, and then it's almost like the age where, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, where dreams die. And I really feel passionate about leading by example to show people that just because you're married and have kids and have a house and have responsibilities doesn't mean that you can't tap into like what do you actually want to do and who do you actually want to be and do you like your life? Are you excited to wake up every day? Um, is there some sort of like ignited feeling in your heart? And if there's not, I would ask like why is that or what can you change to get feeling that way again? And to answer your question about juggling everything, I mean, it is an absolute juggle. I'm not going to lie about that. Like I'm all over the place. Like in the last 24 hours, I have been doing like endless gardening. I've been building stuff for my kids' playroom. I've been dropping them off to tennis, bringing Ivy to dance, like making lunches, making dinners, making sure my team is doing well, doing new hires, like promoting the brand. Like it is just,
Yeah.
and that is like the tip of the iceberg of what's been going on. And but I think it's important to let people know that that's okay. Rest is important, but I love the mindset of being useful, of you know, just waking up every day and thinking like, how can I contribute to make things better? And um, and I think a lot of people like to sit back and in some sense, when I see that, it makes me sad because I think we're all full of so much potential no matter what our age is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's typically tied to youth to go after dreams. And I just want to remind everyone that, like, you know, it can be a juggling act, but that it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice your own light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Like, I love age is just a number. Like, I always say that to
It
people,
is.
age is just a number and you're in control of your life and like what you do next.
Yeah.
Um, what boundaries or I guess like what routines help you stay grounded, help you stay like organized with yourself?
Yeah. So I got to this place in January, or I guess it was December of 2022, where like I mentioned, I was a professional dancer, a performer for a long time. I did that professionally for, probably about 12 to 14 years. And so I was very tapped into like my physical body. And after having kids, there were a good 10 years that I completely just ignored myself because I thought that's actually what moms should do. I thought that they should give, and this is not correct, but I thought that if I give all of myself to my children and my husband and my home and my business, then I'm doing a great job. And I heard this quote that said, you should work harder on yourself than you do on your business. And I reflected on that and I was like, okay, I'm not feeling good in my body. I definitely work harder on my business than I do on myself. And something's got to change because I'm not happy with myself anymore. My kids are thriving. They're doing well. They have passions, they have loves, they're doing all the things. And I'm sitting here, not in my best self. So what has to change? And in that moment, I committed to myself that daily I was going to take proper care of myself, no matter what it took. And so we hired help in the home 3 days a week. I have Nadia that comes in for 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, and helps me with laundry, helps me with sometimes cooking, helps me sometimes with packing lunches, cleaning, like things that, take up a lot of time that I can be present with my kids instead, or I can be, I don't know, whatever it is, spending time with my husband, sitting in nature, like in just doing things that I actually enjoy and that inspires me. And yeah, and then also in terms of something that I really love to do, it's moving my body. So I got back into my own body and started personal training, started lifting weights. I thought back to something that I really loved because when I was dancing, I also started doing weights back then, and it was a great stress reliever. And typically, you think of heavy lifting and you think of men doing it, but it's great for women and it's really good for like perimenopause, menopause. And so I wanted to preemptively, before I hit those points, get my, muscle mass back and get feeling good again. But I had some psychological work to do because, I was worried that if I carved out the time for myself, that, it wouldn't be a good example for others, which is backwards. It's always a great example for others. I mean, most people end up, it's like through osmosis. If you care about your health, they start caring about their health. If you start moving your body more, they start moving their body more. And I've seen it, not only with my team and with my family, meaning like both my husband and my kids, but I've also seen it with our following. Like I've gotten messages from people saying like, thank you, you've inspired me to move again. So I'm just trying to lead by example. That's like my goal.
Yeah, I think it's important that you said that with like the fitness and like showing people on social media, like obviously being in a social media marketing like role myself. I think it's so, and I always tell people like show up authentic, show things that you think nobody would care about, like your
Yeah.
workout routine, what you're like drinking. Like it doesn't have to be so in depth, but like somebody may see something of you moving your body and feel motivated, and that's enough for you to be like, okay, now like I feel like I did something, I feel like I helped somebody. I do that all the time with my social media. It's like fitness is a big part of my life, so I share that. And then I've got like partnerships through it, and I work with that on like the side, and like I'm passionate about products I use, so I work with brands like that because I want people to know that like taking supplements is not a bad thing, like taking
Yeah.
protein, like all of these
Yeah.
things, and it's helped so many people in different ways. So I think it's so important you mentioned that because that's the power of social media. We're here to like empower people and like show them that it's okay to do these things and you're allowed to, and like give them that grace. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting for me. I would say I'm introverted, and I'm a private person by nature. So this dropping the veil to show more is truly a challenge for me because
Mm-hmm.
I do better just like retreating. And so it's been almost like an exercise for me to not be as shy, I guess, in terms of just like I'm fine to share things about Fancy Face because I feel like it's directly helping somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's just sharing your own life, sometimes it feels somewhat pointless, but it's not actually.
Mm-hmm.
It helps others connect with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I ask this with all my guests, like what does success mean to you? I know success is like such like a big word and it means something different to everybody. So I like to talk about and like ask my guests, what does that mean to you and what does that look like for you?
At this stage of life, success means that I feel like it's tied to waking up and feeling inspired. It's tied to to truly being excited to live your own life. That's success. Like, I mean, to be in flow, to feel that you're doing what you're meant to be doing, that you're in the right lane, that you're inspiring others. You know, a success for me would, and it is right now also already, feeling like my kids are thriving because of how I parented them. That's success to me. Having a great relationship with my husband is success to me. You know, nurturing our family life is success. Building a team that I love to work with feels like success. Seeing them thrive is success. There's so many versions of it for me at this point. Yeah, I would say that those are a few.
Yeah, I love that. And what advice would you give to women? I just want to like touch on this is like, what advice would you give to women who feel disconnected with their beauty and like their confidence and like are kind of struggling in that area?
Yeah, I think that, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why women can feel disconnected from their beauty. I mean, it could be their upbringing. It could be what they were told, like how I mentioned, some, you know, that person that whose mother said that women that wear makeup aren't smart. But like, you know, those things can play on you psychologically, and then you can start to wear them. Like you can start
Mm-hmm.
to, and so like, who knows? There could be many reasons why people don't feel comfortable when it comes to exploring makeup and what identity they want to put forth in the world. Um, and listen, I'm a huge believer of show up as you are. Like, but to me, like the way I showed up today is who I am. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm deeply connected with how I show up in the world. And so, you know, there's also this sort of like mentality of like, oh, just be you, get out of the shower, throw on some clothes and go. And that's you. And that's great. And that is great. Like if that's authentically how you feel best showing up in the world. But, you know, for those that are deeply disconnected from themselves, I think you need to, you know, reach out to people that can help. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what we're passionate about is we love when we see someone like open the door of fancy face and you could tell they're like a little scared to step in because they're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, am I welcome here? And like, of course we have open arms and we love everyone that walks through the door and we make people feel welcomed, but it's an example of how the beauty industry has made certain women feel that they don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is to make everyone feel like no matter how they look that day or where they're at in life that at that moment, like there's a place for them in it. And then what's so nice is like once they dabble and they play with it and they see the changes, their life starts to shift. Like everything can
Mm-hmm.
change by how you feel about yourself. It's very intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think especially too with like the social media world, and I think it's changed a lot in the past few years, even since I've started business like 5 years ago. I feel like very much 5 years ago it was like you always show up, you never show up without makeup, you never show up with your hair, like you're always up and ready. And then I feel like it's transformed where like just be yourself, whatever makes you comfortable, whatever you need
Hmm.
to do for you. So I love that like kind of transformation that we've seen over the years of social media of like whatever you need to do to make yourself happy is what
Yeah.
you need to do. There is no right or
Yeah.
wrong answer.
No. I think it's just you being honest with yourself of like,
Hmm.
you know, if you're doing a good job for yourself, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And now that Fancy Face is thriving, what's next for you and your brand? Where do you kind of see that going?
You know, I reflect on this a lot. I mean, my goal is always to reach, you know, more women that feel like they need guidance when it comes to feeling like their best selves. You know, we're very Canadian centric, I would say very Ontario centric as well. So expanding our reach is always a goal for me. Um, you know, intentionally launching new product is also a goal. I'm not really interested in having, you know, 1,000 SKUs of options for everyone. I want to launch things very intentionally. We're working on some very neat collaborations that I can't share yet, but hopefully they'll come to fruition in the future. And I see a few more locations in our future as well. I'm not sure exactly where those will be, but I definitely see that. And continuing to like strengthen and build out our team even more so on the service side. It's really, the service side is like the backbone of our products in a sense, because it's a place where we can showcase our artistry and how we use them. And it's also the integrity behind the brand. There's a lot of, VC funded beauty brands that are just trying to launch anything that is trend worthy, and it doesn't actually mean that it is a product that works. And so the integrity that I have behind the company is like, we don't do something unless it is off the charts fantastic. Like, there's no point in launching mediocre anything. Like, it has to be next level to want to do it.
Yeah, that's really important. I like that you said that. And if you could go back and speak to yourself starting out at that 4 a.m., like doing makeup before your theater shows, what is like one thing you would say to yourself looking back now?
It's so funny because, like, I think at this point, I've done a lot of really cool, neat projects. From especially a Canadian perspective, I think I've achieved a lot of what I wanted to achieve in performing arts, and I've also achieved all my childhood dreams in beauty. And so when I think of that girl, I think, I would just tell her, you got to dream bigger. Like, it's not big enough in terms of what you're capable of, and not big as in like, any sort of superficial big. I mean, the sheer capacity of what we as humans can accomplish when we commit to something is pretty extraordinary if you don't get in your own way. So I would tell her that, like, all of that and more is yours. Now step outside of your comfort zone, because that's all with, like, typically your dreams are like within a level of comfort, and it's beyond that I think really shows you your strength and shows you your true capacity for growth and change.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think it's so important to like feel, you need to be uncomfortable to get comfortable with something.
Yeah. Nothing good happens in your comfort zone. Nothing good. No.
No, that is so true. Well, Brittany, I love this conversation. I think it was so powerful, and I think it'll really help a lot of women kind of like feel that connection to you, your brand, the entrepreneurship and like world in general. I want to kind of go back to our two truths and one lie now that they got to know a bit about you, and we'll recap on those. Do you remember what they were?
I'm going to try. So me living in Australia for 6 months is true. Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I did when I was very young. And my dad was working overseas. We had to pick up the family and move there, and I learned how to speak there. And so I came back with an Australian accent, which was apparently funny. The South Africa for 2 months, and touring South Africa when I was in grade 9, it was actually 1 month. So that was the lie. And I did do that though. And then also, the being Megan Fox's dance double in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, that is true. That is true. Yeah.
I love that. So you got to meet Megan Fox.
and Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah. And Lindsay Lohan. Wow.
It's been interesting to see their career trajectory since that moment. Megan wasn't even known. She was like, there was, yeah.
Wow. And now you just get to watch them to what they are now.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for coming on Socially Unapologetic. I am so happy that we got to meet and chat, and it was so nice to talk to you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.